Good Friday afternoon to all the watchmen out there. We got a lot of news getting dumped today, so I just want to bring you up to speed on a lot of stuff that's happening. We're going to cover the talks at the White House between the UK and Trump and confrontations that happen over free speech. We got New York Times doxing a lot of Doge employees, intentionally trying to open them up to attacks, it looks like. We got the PKK over in Turkey and Syria. It looks like they may dissolve, they may disarm. They are considered a terrorist organization by the United States, and they have there may be peace in the region. We'll see. We got Hamas ceasefire talks going on. We got Americans. A lot of Americans want to leave the United States because they think it's unsafe in the United States. They're unhappy here. We got some big astrological things happening out there that I want to point out in case you can get out tonight to go see them with your own eyes. We got Virginia ordering police to cooperate with ICE, and that's a big deal. We got Amazon shaking up the world of computing and potentially the history of the internet with quantum computers, and we got some bad news for the U.S. economy that the U.S. home sales is crashing. We got that and a whole lot more. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. We're trying to keep you up to date on the news without having to listen to all that garbage from the mainstream media. We don't try to spin things here, but just give you the facts as they are. All right, let's start off here with New York Times. They did not dox any of the workers in the administrations before. They did not dox, and they think it's beyond the pale to talk about any kind of government employees, put their names and faces out there as if to make them a target. But now things are a little different because, you know, different administration. And so suddenly the New York Times is out there doxing, putting out the private information on government workers, Doge workers, 45 of them, putting their faces on the newspaper as well as their names so that they can be tracked down by crazy lunatics. They know that there are standing threats against these people, and yet they still dox them publicly. If you know that there are standing threats against people, you do not publish their addresses, you do not publish their information, you do not give people targets. And that's exactly what the New York Times just did and shows themselves to be the absolute hacks that they are. There is a lot of discontent on the woke left, the liberals, the hardcore liberals who think that we should change the entire world into their little twisted, perverted worldview. And if people resist them whatsoever, even if they're politically similar, they are the enemy. And we're seeing this with the marches, we're seeing this with the movements out there, and we are seeing this with the violent tendencies that they have right now just coming out full force. New York Times trying to get the people who are working hard to increase the efficiency of the government, to restructure the government so that it works for the people and not against the people. It's not supposed to exist there to repress the people and to control us, but rather for us to be able to control it. And that's something that's beyond the pale for the New York Times. Beyond that, we have a major meeting between Prime Minister Starmer as well as President Trump at the White House, having talks. And Prime Minister Starmer got asked question by the press as well as confronted by Vance, J.D. Vance, about free speech issues, people being prosecuted, people getting longer sentences in the UK for saying something or posting something on social media than people who assault women repeatedly. And this is just absolutely insane that this is what the UK is doing right now. From this, the meeting between Prime Minister Starmer and Trump, not only free speech came up, but also the talking of peace in Eastern Europe. And Starmer even actually going so far as to thank President Trump for opening up a window of dialogue to try to come to a peace treaty or a peace between Eastern Europe and Bear Country out there, recognizing that's what he's trying to do. This isn't about selling out. This isn't about. This is about ending the war and the destruction, which is absolutely tragic and devastating for all the people over there. Speaking of that, let's get down to Turkey, Syria, Iraq. You may be aware of the Kurdish presence. It's a minority group related to kind of the Iranians, but not like connection to Iranians, but I mean like same kind of language group. And so they're kind of Persian peoples that are kind of occupying this whole area of eastern Turkey. And Turkey has very vehemently refused any opportunity for them to break off and become a separate region. And the PKK has fought to try to get independence for eastern Turkey. And northern Iraq has actually formed its own area called Kurdistan, which is not a formal country, but it kind of functions like one. And that's the greatest fear of Turkey, is that the people in eastern Turkey will try to form a Kurdistan and take that territory from Turkey. Northern Syria, there are Kurds in northern Syria, and those folks up there are also kind of very independent and have had their own areas, the PYD and other YPG, I think it is, and these groups. Well, the founder of the PKK has actually called for the PKK to dissolve. And the reason for that is that they are looking at having peace talks to come to a grand bargain that may give the Kurdish people their own homeland. Now, there isn't any information on what kind of deal is being brokered at this point, but the fact that the founder of the PKK is calling for the PKK to lay down arms and to enter into these negotiations and peace talks could be absolutely game-changing for the region. Peace in the Middle East between the Kurds and their surrounding neighbors, possibly their own homeland, possibly getting some of what they want, or at least the security guarantees that they desperately need. Moving on to the Hamas ceasefire out there, phase 2 is desperately needed because this Sunday, phase 1 of the Hamas-Israel ceasefire is kaput. And so this is a major, major moment that they need to get phase 2 hammered out. And both sides are negotiating in Cairo, Egypt, to try to get this phase 2 deal done. The United States is very vested in this as well. So there's a lot of hard work going on to make sure that that happens. There has been several missiles fired by Hamas into Israel that were intercepted. And there have been allegations of Israel conducting attacks on Hamas as well, and particularly their attacks on the West Bank, which are not explicitly covered in this ceasefire, but that's a whole nother thing. So there is a lot riding on this weekend and the negotiations that take place between Israel and Israel, because Hamas is occupying Israel. And a lot of people don't want to see it that way, but that's a simple fact, is that the West Bank and the Gaza Strip are actually part of Israel. And that's why they're not a separate country, and that's why a lot of the things are going down the way that they are, because Israel is actually doing an internal policing action. All right, speaking of internal to the United States here, we got 17% of Americans do not like and do not feel welcome in the United States, and they want to leave. They want to leave the United States. And we had a whole bunch of these people promise us that if Trump got elected that they would leave, and they're still here. And they're actually complaining about losing their jobs, which is really rich because a lot of these people said that they would move, and so Donald Trump has been firing a lot of these people and giving them the perfect opportunity to leave, and yet they're still here. 17%. Just think about that. That's almost 1 in 5 Americans. And we're talking about actual legal ones, right? They don't want to be in the United States anymore. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm like, good riddance. If you don't like freedom, if you don't like other people having freedom of speech and you having freedom of speech, yeah, you're right. This isn't a country for you. If you want to talk about how awesome all these countries over in Europe are all the time, well then how about you just go there? If you want to tell us how amazing Canada is and their healthcare system, you should go there. You should move there. You shouldn't stay in the United States where you are deeply unhappy. In fact, you're making everybody around you unhappy too. The presence of people who hate America in the United States makes me unhappy. So all around, best for everybody for you to leave. And there's great opportunities to do that. European countries love Americans going over there and telling them how wonderful all their socialist utopia stuff is. So more power to you. All right, if you have a chance to look up this weekend at nighttime, you will be able to see a 7-planet parade. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are going to be in a string. You'll be able to see them all. You can see them with your naked eye. And I think you can't see Mercury though. But you can see a lot of these with your naked eye. With the telescope, you can see them all, and they're going to be in a row for this week. And so that's something that doesn't happen very often. A parade of planets is not a technical term, but it happens when any 4 planets get in a row. And this week, you're going to have 7 in a row, which is truly unusual. So get out there, get your kids out there, take a look at the sky, enjoy it. If you can't see the sky where you are, then hop in a car and go somewhere where you can, because this is worth seeing if you get the chance to do so. All right, moving down to Virginia. Virginia Governor Youngkin has ordered police and jails to cooperate full cooperation with ICE for the removal of illegal people, people who are in the United States illegally, undocumented, or whatever you want to call them, to remove those people from the United States, particularly those with criminal convictions or who have been detained for criminal things. They are to be deported and help ICE deport them. Now, Virginia has a tendency to did not go with Trump this time around. I was kind of hoping that they would. And they've been moving towards the right. And with all these people losing their jobs, all these blue state people losing their jobs in northern Virginia, if they move, this may shift the country, that state even more to the red. So hopefully so. But they're probably going to have a population drop as a lot of people are going to be shipped overseas back from to where they came from. And that's a big deal because it is a purple state or historically a blue state recently. We got a big news coming out from Amazon. They've just announced and unveiled their new quantum computer chip. And this is technology that you're going to have to... Right now, everyone's talking about AI. Everybody's talking about, other things. But the big thing that's going to be coming out that's going to revolutionize everything is going to be quantum computers. And regular computers are not going to ever go away, because quantum computers are good at some things, and other computers, the computers that we have right now, are good at other things. And they are very different beasts. And that's what's going to really bring so much change, is that these quantum computers fundamentally think differently. Problems that, like encryption, are something that current computers have a hard time figuring out. But those encryption type problems that we just basically brute force with a regular computer that just takes forever to figure out because it just has to guess at the problem. The quantum computers operate differently, backwards almost, and they solve these problems differently, and they really solve them in a much more efficient way. And with the computing power, the way it works, they can do things that have long bugged computer people And like I said, security and encryption actually makes use of this inability for computers to actually think certain ways. And so even the encryption on like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is secured by, and your private information as you log onto your bank account, you see the little lock symbol. That's encryption. And basically what it is if you ever think about like a square root, if you try to figure out the square root of a large number and you're just like having to guess with a pencil and paper, that's kind of how it is. Like you can do a squared of a number, do 72 squared. That's actually a relatively easy computation, just kind of boom, done. But if I give you a very large number and ask you what's the square root of this number, you're going to have to sit there and guess and get closer and closer and closer. And that's what current computers have to do. Whereas quantum computers can look at what is the square root of this, and it can go, boom. It's much more efficient at that. It's just the fundamental difference. And so it's going to change the world. So what Amazon just came out with is a quantum computer chip with 5 qubits on it. Think of them as cores. And every time you add a new qubit, it actually doubles the power of the system, which is crazy. You take 2 of these chips and put them next to each other, and each qubit that you add, so you're adding 5 more qubits, you are exponentially making this computer more powerful. And that's something that we're going to see really, really big. Right now, those qubits are very unstable, and so like they spit out a lot of information that's not right. So they have to be in a very controlled environment. They have to be temperature controlled. They have to be, they can't be bumped at all. Anything that disturbs the qubits can really just mess up the chips right now. But if you can stabilize them, and usually that's what you see with the quantum computers is these giant stabilizing rigs and temperature control and all this kind of stuff like that, and the chip itself is relatively small. As they figure those things out and they make these chips more stable, that's going to be where the big advances come from. Right now, it's like with these things, they can do the calculation relatively quickly, but the problem is you have to do the calculation multiple times to make sure that there wasn't an error in the computations. So you kind of have to try it again and again and again, make sure you get the same answer. And you're going to get some answers that are wrong, and you're kind of like, okay, well, which one of these numbers is the high probability of being the correct answer, and then you can then test that answer and see if it's correct. So you're going to have a powerful regular computer next to it to kind of test the solution to make sure it's actually the solution. So quantum computers are still in their infancy, but they are starting to become commercially viable, which is huge. Where is the United States government, NSA, CIA? These powerful government entities, where are they with it? If Amazon and others are getting to the point where they're able to start looking at commercial viability. All the programs that they're going to be running on these things for now are going to be like the programs that were in the 1970s, 1980s when they were running computer programs. They're very basic. People are just trying to figure out how to use these things right now. And they're just playing with them and seeing the use cases and all that. But the world is changing yet again. Quantum computers are going to change everything. All right, pending home sales in the United States now just hit the lowest level on record for January. In January, they hit the lowest level that we've ever seen on the statistic. Now, this is a house that's under contract. They've agreed to purchase it. Now they just need to lock in all the paperwork and get the money transferred and all that kind of stuff in the contract signed. So the contract is signed. Pending home sales is the lowest level it has been since 2001. Now that 2001 is when they started tracking this number. So basically, people aren't buying houses. If you're trying to sell a house, tough, because nobody's buying them right now. Now, prices are high, people don't have disposable income, interest rates are high, everyone's just kind of waiting for a better time to buy houses. So, if you're selling, that's not good news for you. If you're buying, that means the news might be getting better for you. All right, friends, that's not good for the economy. We got a lot of other indicators showing the economy is slowing down, but We will keep on it. That's the information news dump that we just got here on Friday before the weekend. Hopefully it was helpful. If you guys like it, make sure you hit the thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed. Appreciate you all in the Watchmen community. Have a great weekend. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.